Hmm.
Hello again.
Jewel, how are you? I promise you I'll get a little closer to the phone. I'm just pulling out some
Okay,
of the
don't worry.
other
Don't worry
information
about
I've got to
that.
read. Okay. Okay. Okay, do we have the pastor up?
I'm here, Santita.
Hey, sweetie, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, honey, I am getting better every day. How about that?
I love to hear
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Okay, working on it. Yeah. Give me one hot second, sweetie.
Let me know when you're up on
Oh,
Facebook.
I am now. I am. I'm sorry, sweetie. I should have told you. I
Oh,
apologize for that.
okay, no worries.
Yeah, yeah. I try not to give you that one last thing to do. Let's see what-
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
say a few words for me,
Oh.
Mr. Thurston, for the air check. Sure thing. That's Julie doing as well. She's on the front. That's the relaxation. Coach that. I have your audio. You both sound wonderful. Thank you.
Alrighty, daddy. Okay, okay. Grab this.
We have 3 minutes.
Oh, fantastic. That gives me just a little bit more time, and I need every second. Every second. That is great. How are your parents doing? Good. Oh, you know I'm always going to ask about them. You knew that. Yes, you know, I'm always praying for them. They're wonderful people. Wonderful, wonderful. That's good. That's good. Got that. You see this police officer they protected, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Protocol has been set.
Oh, I'm so glad that I had one of my morning stars, bless his heart, was doubting the veracity of that. I'm like, look, it is what it is. It's out here.
Yes, ma'am.
It's out here. Hey, everybody, let me know if when there is because we're going to be talking about it for the rest of the week. Let me know when you're available for one of these panels.
Okay. So I just have a question.
Okay.
We have 30 seconds.
Okay, put me down for that then.
Okay.
Yes, put me down for that.
Stand by.
Okay, thank you, hon. All right, let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's the last day of January. Can you believe it's like we're speeding through the year? I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you with my copier going in the background. That's it. From WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you today. A lot is coming out in the Tyre Nichols case. We're going to be talking about that. This police officer, Preston Hemphill, who helped to initiate the stop. Indeed, he is the gentleman. He is the police officer who pulled Tyre Nichols from the car. We want to know why he's been shielded. Indeed, that was something that attorney Ben Crump brought up. He said, is it because he's white? Is he cooperating? What is going on? We talked about this in some detail yesterday. We're going to dig down a little bit deeper and look at some of the legislative remedies with Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway in this wonderful panel we've got. Of course, Dr. D. Dwight McKee is from Memphis. So some people are saying, as Attorney Bailey said yesterday, that this is personal. Okay. And there are many different streams of information that say that this is more personal than many of us can even imagine, right? That maybe there was a love affair that prompted this. Got a lot to talk about today on the Santita Jackson Show. And then, of course, John Nichols will be with us. And what will John be talking about? He'll be talking about Ilhan Omar and these Democrats, Congressman Stilwell, et cetera, who are being targeted and removed from very powerful committees. Is that right? Of course, the speaker had that's his prerogative, and he is exercising these prerogatives in a mighty way. So we're going to be talking about that. And of course, Chicago mayoral candidates have weighed in on the Tyre Nichols case. He wants to talk about that too. Got a lot that we're going to get into on the Santita Jackson Show. So I want you to call me, Max Myrick in DC, 773-763, WCPT, 773-763-9278. Hey, Jewel up there in New York, my sweetie. Samantha, how you doing? Daryl. And, oh my goodness, and Robert, so many of you. Carol, how you doing? And you are all from all over the country. Hey, Renee, and all over Chicago and all over Minneapolis and all over the world. And we're glad to have you on the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get to some of these headlines, everybody. In Chicago, mostly sunny, but it will be cold today. The high will be 12 degrees. Minneapolis, St. Paul, it's just the same. We got you beat by 2 degrees, Minneapolis. 10 degrees above zero, but mostly sunny. Unbelievable. After this beautiful blood moon last night. Unbelievable. Everyone's talking about the Super Bowl, February 12th. The first time you will have, and I think the fourth time in history that you will have black quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles and Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City. So excited to see this day happen. And I know Joe Gilliam, these quarterbacks, Warren Moon, all of these quarterbacks who paved the way, quarterbacks who never had the opportunity, quarterbacks who were the best in their positions, but they were relegated to other positions. They were made running backs and the like, because that's the lead position in football, and Black men were kept out of that spot. And now, just unstoppable. And so I just want us to remember all the people who didn't get the opportunity, but certainly would have deserved it and would have benefited from it. And we would have too, as football fans. So everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And let's talk today about Tyree Nichols in the NBA. The Kings 118, the Timberwolves 111. The Clippers will be facing off against the Bulls tonight, and both of our NHL teams, thankfully, have a bit of a break. It is cold, but it is cold some of everywhere in the United States of America. 38 million people in the United States today are living under some kind of winter advisory. It's just unbelievable, everybody. Ice storms. 1,100 flights were canceled Monday, with a similar number of cancellations expected today. Everybody, please be careful and call ahead to the airport and see if your flight's going to take off. President Joe Biden intends to end the COVID-19 national and public health emergencies on May 11th. What will that mean? We'll be talking with some health professionals about that going forward. The public health emergency enabled the government to provide many Americans with COVID tests without pay. Well, at least taxpayers paid. You didn't have to pay initially. Treatments and vaccines at no cost, as well as the offer for enhanced social safety net benefits to help the nation. Well, that is now about to end. Should it? Call me at 773-763-9278. As the nation grapples with recent incidents of gun violence and mass shootings, officials in Lakeland, Florida responded Monday to a scene where at least 10 people were wounded in a drive-by shooting. 8 of the victims have non-life-threatening injuries, while 2 remain in critical condition. We've had more mass shootings in the United States than we have had days. We have got to look at that, everybody. We've got to look at that. And so, in the meantime, you know what? We still have good news. And I'm going to go to Pastor Stephen Thurston, the recently retired teaching pastor of the Salem Baptist Church. I'm so glad to see him moving on over to New Covenant, his historical family church. Indeed, it was one of the few churches in the United States of America that kept their doors open to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And that was one of my father's first trial sermon churches. Absolutely. And so we just thank God for New Covenant and the Thurston family today. Well, today on Facebook at 3 o'clock, will you be on today?
Santita, we're making a change. I have a schedule that's starting to look like your dad's schedule. I'm shifting your moments to Fridays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, starting this week.
Okay. All right. I love it. What are you going to be talking about today?
So Friday, rather. Friday.
Oh, Friday. Okay.
With leadership, I know we've been so used to doing this for years. I know it's difficult to make that switch in our head, but we're going to deal with some leadership issues that equip people who are in a position to guide and shepherd people to be better at what they're doing, especially as we're seeking to lead people to change. So I'm going to help leaders to lead people to change a little bit better on Friday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Well, you know what? I love it, because I know how much I enjoy what you do. Because, as someone who really is into sociology and psychology, you understand how our spirit impact all of that. And I thank you for really shaping your ministry in a way that is so helpful. And of course, you have so much respect for the life of the mind that you have studied these disciplines all over the world. And I thank you for that. And thank you for bringing all of that great knowledge back to the South Side of Chi. And all over the country, quite frankly. All over the country. A lot of great things happen over here. I'm not mad. I'm not mad, and I love it. I love it, and I love you. So talk to us. What is the good news today? Because Shirley Carter from beautiful Philadelphia, as they're excited about the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, yes, yes. I understand, girl. um, people need that more than ever because we've had a lot of things that have been that have weighed us down a little bit. It's been tough watching these videos of Tyree Nichols' murder, really.
Yeah. Yeah, we need some to lift our spirits, bring a little joy, put a smile on our face. And as we consider that, I want us to embrace this new chapter. It's a new year, so that means it's a new chapter. And like most people, I have over the years tried to control so many aspects of my life. And guess what? That hasn't always worked out in my favor. It's like just when I thought I had it all under control, life was inconveniently showed me many, many, many times that I was getting a little too arrogant, a little too cocky in that department. You name it, I tried to control it from my schedule to my time. Just in case I'm talking to any other type A personalities, you know what I'm talking about. You can say amen right here.
Okay, amen. Leave me alone.
I've even gone to the point of foregoing random opportunities because my mind was so made up on going in a certain direction, even in those moments where I really should have given that other thing more consideration. Now, to be clear, and I'll soothe some of your pain, Santita, none of these are necessarily bad. Planning your time and least efficiency, foregoing things because you are on a mission means you might be on the path to your purpose. But when you do these things day in and day out like we do, all at the same time, well, let's just say the process can get stressful. But I tried it anyway because I figured I might as well try to control what I could since life was going to be random no matter what. And it also gave me satisfaction, almost a somewhat false sense of accomplishment that I was shaping my own destiny. And I think that most of us really fall into this way of thinking because we all want to foresee things before they can potentially happen in order for us to feel safe, because safety and security, that's big for human beings. But ironically, when we try to control life, we end up missing out on possibilities that may have come our way if only we let go and allow life to simply happen. Because try as we may, we can't always control life. Sometimes painful things happen that we couldn't possibly predict or prevent. And what I've learned in these situations and moments that helps me to better cope with the unpredictability of life is that life happens for me, life doesn't happen to me. And that the seemingly bad or painful experiences create an opportunity for something bigger and something better to take place in my life. So then you and I cannot foresee what's coming down the road as much as we want to. We can only choose our attitude when we hit roadblocks along the journey, which ultimately shapes our choices. When life doesn't go to plan, we've got to embrace the change and realize that our lives are composed of chapters. One has to end before another one can begin. But we can't move on to the next chapter if we're continually rereading the old chapter. We have to willingly accept that life will go on and that we have a chance to create something bigger and oftentimes something better. Our time on this earth, it's a limited time. We've got an expiration date, and it's constantly passing at the same speed with no bias. This means that with time, the inner turmoil you're currently dealing with, without a doubt, it's going to pass. Last but not least, before we can move on to our next chapter, we have to accept what is happening in the present moment. Then and only then can we proceed forward with some calmness and some clarity. Now, I understand that what I'm suggesting is not going to be easy to digest when you're in a place where you're hurting, but know that our lives become a lot happier when we strive to make the most of what life gives us. And I'm encouraging you today to embrace the change, whatever it may be. Hold on to the notion that life could be creating space for you to do something different, maybe even something greater. And when I look back over my past, I realize that every loss has taught me beautiful, valuable lessons that now help me in the present. And guess what? The same is likely true for you. in these moments of inner turmoil, take mental note that will help you grow and help you in the future when dealing with whatever else life decides to throw your way. Here's the good news. You've made it through loss and hardship before. So what makes you think that you can't now? The answer is you can, and you will. You just needed me to remind you of that state, and you just need to remember three things. Life happens for your benefit, not against it. Everything heals with enough time, and it's pointless to keep resisting. Here's the good news. The next chapter could be even more amazing than the previous one. I hope you have an amazing day as you embrace this new chapter of your life.
I love that. I love that more than I can tell you. And killing me softly with his song. I felt he's looked right through me and all my dark despair. I want to thank you for that, because that was for me today. And it was for someone else. It was for a whole lot of people. Move on, everybody. Keep on going. That's what God does. A new day, every day. Oh, gosh, it's wonderful. Love you, Pastor Stephen Thurston. And you are now moved to Fridays for your Facebook Live. Just very quickly, tell us when we can catch that.
Yep, Friday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on my Facebook page. That's Stephen with the PH, Stephen Thurston. You'll find me there smiling, waiting to drop some nuggets on you this Friday in the area of leadership and how we ought to lead people through change most effectively and efficiently.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, you know what? We love you, Pastor Stephen Thurston. Get the book Mirror Moments, everybody. Mirror Moments. It is going to bless you. It has already blessed me and so many thousands of others. Thank you so much, Pastor Stephen Thurston. We've got Dr. Shanita Knighton, infection preventionist, registered nurse, college lecturer. Oh, she's head of the organization, really, that is the largest of its kind in the world. More epidemiologists and infection preventionists are part of this group than any other. And I want to ask her about COVID-19. It turns out, although the World Health Organization says, hey, we're still in this pandemic, it seems like the United States is pushing to move on. President Biden has declared indeed, he has said that May 11th, COVID-19 national and public emergencies, that it will end. You'll no longer get free COVID tests and treatments, and on and on and on. Do you think we're there yet? I mean, just as a public health professional, are we there yet? And what can we do? What can we do? I mean, as it seems like we're phasing out of this. The 4 minutes I got, they belong to you.
Good morning. So I first and foremost want to say that, yes, these opinions are of my own and don't represent the organization that I work for. When I say that I do not think that this is more so on a health-based decision as much as I think that it is a political and economical one. And it is challenging to not think about the two as how that goes together, but understanding like the financial distress that our country is in. So it's not like, let's say, a right or a wrong in this particular instance, but unfortunately there will be casualties and people will suffer as a result of us not having access to those resources. I also want to highlight that even though those resources have been there still continues to be issues around equity and making sure that people have access to these resources, which I do commend the efforts of making sure that education is there, making sure that, funding specifically targeted minority populations to start to correct some of the wrongs that were done early in the pandemic. But unfortunately, we're not there. And when I look up and I say that long COVID exists, there are unintended consequences. For us to declare anything to be over when we don't even fully understand how people are suffering after COVID is of concern to me. No, I don't think that, there is less say, direct correlation between some of the things that are happening with our young people, but it is worth investigating, especially when we know that CDC mentions the cardiac issues that are associated with vaccines, with the COVID vaccine. We know that, when some of these things come out, they're worth us spending just as much time on them as we do spend on pushing forth the initiative. And so I do hope that even though that is what is declared, that there is, like, let's say, some sort of gray area or the small fine print that does say that some of these studies will continue as a result of that. However, we can't be in this situation forever, and we have to learn to practice infection prevention and controls, because otherwise, when the next pandemic comes around, if we're still stuck on this one, then how can we be prepared?
Well, very quickly, Joyce said that 2 people she knows have tested positive, and she had a severe, horrific bout, even though she's fully vaccinated. Why are people getting really sick, even though they've been fully vaccinated? I mean, what can we do, just to fight this?
The strains change.
Okay.
So when the vaccines were created, the strains that we were dealing with early on in the pandemic, remember I told you that we were essentially trying old tricks on a new dog, which I know is a reverse of what they're saying is. That's because if we're using old vaccines, when we know that there's been many mutations and variations of COVID, then it's not going to be effective or as effective. And so people that are getting severely sick are from the newer strains that are coming out. And unfortunately, that is continuing to evolve. Like, COVID hasn't stopped changing, which is why we have to change.
Amen to that, everybody. Go to @Hey Dr. Nina. Hey Dr. Nina is her tag, is her handle. HEYDRNINA. You don't want to miss it. Coming up, let's talk about Tyree Nichols. This white police officer. Attorney Benjamin Crump wants to know, why was he shielded? Why are we just finding out about him now? He was the one who initiated the stop. Back in just a minute. Santita Jackson Show. Dr. Knighton, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, honey, I am doing all right. It was a wonderful song by the Jackson 5 on their Going Back to Indiana album. See how old I am? Oh, yeah. I'm like, ow, taking me all the way back. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to be golden. Somebody got a golden birthday coming up.
Hey, super golden. And I can't wait. Lord, give it to me. As my father said, if you don't like birthdays, try missing one. How about that? I said, ooh, okay. I said, that's novel. Thank you. He said, He said, I do not want you to have the issues with aging. He said this to me when I was 25, more than 30 years ago. He said, I don't want you to have issues with aging that so many women have. He said, I don't want that for you. Be grateful for every minute God gives you. I said, I got you. Daddy, I got you. I felt that way, but he was, my mother was like, oh, you're 25, you're getting old. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Wow. My father was like,
25, you're getting old.
Oh, yeah. She was like, oh, what are you going to do? Well, I said, okay. And my father was like, because he never ever contradicted her, to his credit, ever. But he did come back and say, I don't want you to have this issue. Don't want you to do this. I want you to go on and take every year and be excited about it and keep it moving. How about that?
Well, that's beautiful advice, because that's exactly how we should be living, right?
Absolutely. He said, hey, you don't like birthdays. Try missing one, honey. And I said, Dad, if I found out I was terminally ill, I'd be grabbing for birthdays. He said, "Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you, honey?" He said, "Daddy ain't lying to you." I said, "I got you." He said, "Please don't do that." Hmm.
What matters and what don't want it.
No, yeah, no, he got on me about that, and I thanked him. I said, "Thank you." He said, "No," he said, "That's what daddies are for." He said, "I caught that, and I don't want you to carry that." And I said, "Okay, I got you." And I won't, and I haven't. So I just, okay, let me see. Okay, so I'm just trying to get myself together for this upcoming segment. Whoo, girl, it's just been a lot. A lot been going on.
It has, and I ain't gonna lie, like, I'm curious. I'm gonna stay like maybe 2 minutes because I just want you to repeat what you just said about that new discovery with.
About the white police officer?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Preston Hemphill. He was the one on tape who tased Tyree and pulled him out the car. See, you know what? Look, this is about, oh, yeah. And he's only 26.
Miss Jackson, we have about 30 seconds.
Okay.
We have Miss Wells on and Representative G.A.
Oh,
Hardaway
yay.
and Attorney Jones.
And did I give you Dwight?
You did. I'm gonna need Dr. Knighton to drop.
Oh, okay.
And
No.
I can get him on.
Well, you know what? As soon as we get the introductory, we'll let Dr. Knighton go. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Stand by.
Of course. Thank you.
Change the world. Change the world. Okay. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. January 31st, 2023. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I am Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. And we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about Ilhan Omar. AM 950 radio, what a tremendous congressperson you have in Ilhan Omar. And she's being blocked from a critical committee because of her political stances, as are other Democrats. And this is happening on the watch of and under the direction of the new Speaker of the House. And so we've got to talk about that. And then how Chicago mayoral candidates, when more than one are running on Law and Order, how they're responding to the Tyree Nichols case. And we have, as our special guest this morning, Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. We're so excited to have him so he can talk to us about what's happening there and what the path forward is legislatively. Of course, Attorney Darrell Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition and brilliant social scientist Dwight McKee. But first, we are getting ready for the Super Bowl, this historic Super Bowl, where you will have Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles and Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City. What's so special about that? For the first time in the 57-year history of this game, you will have two African-American starting quarterbacks, routinely African-Americans who started as quarterbacks, many of whom played brilliantly. Up until really recent history. And I would say certainly within the past 40, 20 years, we now more and more see black quarterbacks. You would have black quarterbacks who'd be relegated into the running back position and other positions, just so that they would not have that leadership position on the football teams. Do not take what will be happening on February 12th with Mr. Hurts and Mr. Mahomes lightly. You have people like Joe Gilliam. You have people like Warren Moon, and so many who paved the way. And some really paved the way with their lives because the disappointment drove them into a lot of painful habits. So think about that on that day as we approach this historic day. Before we get to State Representative G.A. Hardaway and this panel, I want to hear from you, Chaparral. What is going on? You're getting ready for, you said, what is it? February 14th and February 12th. Talk to us.
Yes, yes, we are. In celebration by us, we are gearing up for Valentine's Day as well as also the Super Bowl. So give us a call at 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546. We can handle all of your hot wings, your barbecue wings, as well as your meatballs, your sliders, and sandwiches. Whatever it is that you need for your Super Bowl party, give us a call. Also, Santita, we are promoting now our Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation annual gala. That's going to be held on March 3rd, 2023. And we're right now selling tickets for that event. So give us a call or visit our website at www.copelandmemorial.com, and you can purchase your tickets there. Thank you so much, Santita.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody, let's talk about the latest in this Tyre Nichols case. It gets more and more interesting. Ben Crump is the headline. Says the only known white Memphis police officer relieved of duty in Tyre Nichols' death pulled him from the car and hit him with a taser, yet he had his identity protected. That was mentioned yesterday and has now become a story this morning. I want to know what you think about this young man who's not been fired. He's not been charged, but he has been relieved of duty. 26 years of age, Preston Hemphill, relieved of duty, put on paid administrative leave. But as we watched these 5 black police officers march out, we never heard anything about him, the person who was on the initial stop. There's a lot going on here, everybody, and I am trying to figure it out. Attorney Darrell Jones, Transformative Justice Coalition, Dwight McKee, and oh my goodness. Let us start with you, Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. I don't even know where to begin. It's like every day. Throughout the day, it seems like the story just continues to change. You've had more people who have been relieved of duty, more people who've been fired, more people who were involved in this tragedy. Welcome to this show.
Well, good morning to you, Santita, and good morning to all of your listeners. And as usual, we want to begin by sending our deepest condolences and our wishes, our prayers for comfort and care to the family of young Tyre Nichols. I was talking with some reporters yesterday, and the phrase that came to mind for me was curiouser and curiouser. That's out of Alice in Wonderland. Where things just get stranger and stranger every day. And it also reminds me of what my mom would tell me and my siblings. If you tell the truth, you ain't got to remember what you say. It's that simple. We've got what appears to be an evolving story that just bit by bit, no matter what our eyes see, we're only told the complete story in the same part. But that's not transparency. That's not truth. And as I said before, if you don't have transparency, truth, you don't have the trust of the Memphis and Shelby County and the Tennessee citizens. And without that trust, the Memphis Police Department and no other law enforcement agency can do its job, because you can't protect the community unless the community is in essence protecting you. So we know now that not only did our eyes not deceive us when we saw more than 5 officers on the scene, we know now that our eyes did not deceive us when we saw black and white officers on the scene. We know now that our eyes didn't deceive us when we saw one officer, who happened to be the white officer, actually appeared to tase Mr. Nichols while he was on the ground, and he appeared to be the one that tried to shoot the taser dot at Mr. Nichols when he was literally running for his life. So we got a lot more to come out. It's astonishing to me that there can be administrative, not just oversight, in making the complete number of involved personnel, making that available to the public, but the fact that you have taken administrative action against some of these policemen, but you didn't even reveal that. You put them on administrative leave, and you did not feel compelled to share that with the public. Why? Why? I can't understand the way this goes, and I hope our police chief gets better counseling, better advice on how to communicate with her constituents, and that's who we are. I hope the mayor gets better advice on how to communicate with his constituents. But that administration has done an abysmal job of sharing critical information with the public in order to foster trust and to promote transparency, so we can work with them as everything unfolds. And I'm torn for what the family, Tyree Nichols, is going through, because the story keeps changing, and they never know if they're getting the whole story, what really happened to their child. This is terrible.
We're talking with State Representative G.A. Hardaway from Tennessee about these new revelations that continue to just come out about this Tyree Nichols case. We've seen the 5 police officers. That sparked a whole conversation. State Representative Hardaway about black on black crime and Black people being used by the police to double down and be harmful to the Black community. But then you see that it was a young white kid, 26, who actually tased Tyree, pulled him out of his vehicle, and said, "I hope they stomp your ASS." I mean, whoa. And then Attorney Crump, being the attorney of record for the family, is saying, wait a minute, we didn't know about this. With all that you told us, with all that you showed us, we didn't even know this other police officer was involved. I mean, and of course, that he's white is of some consequence, but it's not of all consequence. We're looking at police brutality, whatever the color of the police is. But what do you make of that? Is he getting special treatment? Is that the sense? Is he a cooperating witness? I mean, there's a lot that we don't know, but it's just the speculation can lead us down a rabbit hole. State Representative Hardaway.
Yes, ma'am. I think you're right. We're down that rabbit hole, and we're trying to figure out how to get out and what's real and what's not. That's one reason that I was hesitant to give praise to the police department, Memphis Police Department, on the hasty, it looked like it was what actions, and it looks like it was hasty actions on their part to put those 5 officers out there, their pictures, their names, to take administrative action against them after investigation, and move to actually indict them, not charge them, but indict them. And it all moved so quickly with only 5, when we knew it was 9 or 10 officers on the scene. So I was hesitant then because things just didn't make sense to me. And speaking to some of the officers within the Memphis Police Department not directly involved, and speaking to some of the more seasoned officers who have seen this picture before, they assured me that I wasn't crazy, that there had to be more going on. You can't have that type of incident, have the call go out for assistance, and not have more personnel involved in that activity, which resulted in the chase and the murder of young Tyree Nichols. So I say to you, we and higher and higher.
Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway is with us this morning, giving us really an assessment and giving us information about what's happening on the ground there in Memphis, as we all around the country are riveted, State Representative Hardaway, by what is going on here. I mean, it impacts so many of us in Chicago because so many of us are Memphians. So many of us are Mississippians. You know, we came here, you know, in several different ways. And one wave, one of the great waves, of course, was prompted by yet another lynching, if you will, of Emmett Till. And one of those persons who ended up coming here with his family as a little boy from Memphis is social scientist, indeed one of the founding members of Operation Push. He's with this National Action Network doing so much great work, and the Sankofa Project here in Chicago does so much great work. And of course, Attorney Darrell Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. But let me start with you, Dwight. Why don't you react to what you've heard Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway say? I mean, he's been telling us this story continues to evolve. And you were very conservative, if I must say, on Reverend Jackson's show on Sunday. I mean, you were not reluctant to speak, State Representative Hardaway, but you said, you know, there's a lot we don't know. You kept cautioning us, and I made a mental note.
And Santita, we've got to realize that just because folks look like that, same color, doesn't mean that they've got our best interest in mind. The old saying, all skin ain't kin, and we'll see that as this plays out. But if we just use common sense on how the protocols are that are in place for the Memphis Police Department, we know that when you begin a chase, that you've got to notify your superiors. We know when you have the type of violent arrest that occurred, that you've got to notify your superiors. We know when you transport for injuries, you've got to have notice to your superiors. So that automatically means that this is spread through the system. There are individuals out there who know more than they're saying publicly, and we're gonna see what that is shortly. We can't count on everything, obviously, to come out through the channels of the Memphis Police Department. I think as we start to get into the season after Mr. Nichols has been laid to rest, his homecoming, that we'll start to get more folks who will feel compelled to speak, whether they speak out publicly or whether they speak through trusted messengers such as myself. I think you'll start to get more information that will tell you that this tragedy involved more folk, and we can't solve it. We can't prevent future tragedies if we don't have transparency and truth from the Memphis Police Department and the trust of the community. They don't know the answers. If they did, we wouldn't be in this position. I wouldn't be talking to you about this topic this morning. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you this, that if you have a police chief that is speaking about the failure and to hire supervisors, and that you're 100-some supervisors short for the department, my first question is, why do we have folks on the street who cannot be adequately supervised? I mentioned that before, that the chain of command and who was supervising these folks who were out there being criminal gangs and carrying out criminal gang activity on the inside of the badge. Those folks were acting in with a blue rage. They were out there wilding with that type of mentality that you find in prisons, with the criminal gangs in prisons when there are riots and disturbances, and they exact revenge on other gang members who betrayed them or gang members on the other side. That's the kind of bestiality and crime they will actions that we saw. No conscious, just steadily abusing and brutalizing a citizen for no reason at all. It's reflective of what black folks have gone through since the slavery days, what black folks have gone through since the police units were set up primarily to capture runaway slaves and then later to discipline black folks in general with the night riding and the lynchings. It's crazy. You mentioned earlier that some black folks moved to Chicago. I have people in Chicago, just like every other black person. And the stories, just a couple of generations back, will tell you that it was this type of violence, this type of abuse of the law under the color of the law that we had to suffer through. And some black folks had to flee, leaving everything behind to keep from getting lynched or keep their families from being murdered. We did a bill a while back that would investigate lynchings, would investigate that type of horror that was exacted upon us back during the 50s and the 40s, and even the 60s and 70s. And what was astonishing to me is how many of the families that were investigated had no relatives left in Tennessee, that everyone that had to pull up state in the middle of the night and flee to another state, usually Illinois, it was a primary recipient, sometimes Michigan, in order to save their lives. So all of this stuff comes together. It's a bigger picture in terms of our culture, our history, but it all boils down to simply that we allowed these guys on the streets. They were hired and put out there knowing that there had already been a failed experiment in Atlanta with that Red Dog unit that they had down there. And the special problems that went with it, including loss of life and abuse of power. So we already knew that that type of unit, when not properly supervised, when the personnel had not been properly vetted, we know that they could go out of control and we end up with a Putin type, as your dad said, goon squad on the street, North Korea type justice, with a communist China type justice. This is America. Not like that.
It's not supposed to be. Dwight McKee, I've got about 3 minutes. They belong to you.
Well, that's the problem when you have a lack of transparency that you have, is that it gives rise to rumors and innuendos that can't be verified necessarily, but take root. And so now you have these rumors, everything around it. Police probably may have known Tyree, and then he may have been involved with one of the ex-girlfriends or one of the policemen, and this was very personal. Everything from that to this is just a random pattern that they have, that as the good doctor just said, is that they were just out wilding, and it's now their style. And so you really need facts to combat rumor, because you really don't know what to believe and what not to believe. If it in fact is the fact that they knew Tyree, and this was a jealousy issue, then the charges need to be upgraded from a second-degree murder to premeditated murder, first-degree murder. And it becomes a whole different trial if that in fact is real. But it's hard to know what's real and what's not real, what's real and what's Millerex, if there's not transparency and you don't have the real facts.
But every day, throughout the day, we're getting a different set of facts. I know one of our listeners yesterday was disputing the fact that there was a white officer involved. I said, wait, that's already been established. People who've seen the tape have saw him. Okay. But I mean, it's the code of blue. Racism is a part of this, but power overreach courses straight through all of this. He's not been charged, but he's just been relieved of duty. He still is getting a paycheck. What do you think about that, everybody? Call us at 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT, the Santita Jackson Show on the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, having a special conversation with this panel led by Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, helping us to understand what's going on down there in Memphis. Everybody, please check out the Morning Stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're going to be talking straight through the commercial break, and Santita Jackson and friends. You don't want to miss that conversation either. Back in just a minute. Well, you all just keep on talking because we're on Facebook Live, but I tell you, I'm riveted by the way you're unwinding this whole story. State Representative Hardaway. And of course, we've got really one of the leading voting rights advocates he and Barbara Arnwine really are at the apex of that pyramid. And but he's also a brilliant civil rights lawyer, attorney Daryl Jones, who's with us right now, listening. And I guess Daryl trying to take it all in. I didn't even get an amen from you. I just heard you listen.
Sometimes you got to just listen. You just, have to dissect what you're hearing coming from State Representative Hardaway. It's just amazing to hear some of the information that's coming out. But, Cynthia, one of the things that immediately comes to my mind is that when we're talking about, the Chief Sterling Davis and what went on in Georgia with the Red Dog Unit.
Yeah.
I'm a former county council person. One of the things that we always did when issues came up regarding police is that they had to come to the county council for their budget. And so that was the time to start asking questions about areas of concern. And I'm just wondering if the city council was involved in just sort of, vetting out any of this information with the hiring that came about. And I'm assuming that the mayor appointed the chief of police. Is that accurate, Representative?
Yes, sir. You're accurate, and I can tell you there was a lot of politics involved. The mayor wanted to be able to claim the distinction of appointing the first black female to hold that position of police chief for the city of Memphis, and that may have kind of covered the lenses through which some of our city council people saw the candidate. I think without rendering a judgment and trying to wait until we get more information, that might be generations from now. So I'll correct myself. I'm going to wait until I get more information before I render judgment on our police chief. But I think the Red Dog unit and its failure to fulfill its mission in Atlanta certainly should have been vetted by our city council, and it wasn't adequately vetted. I think the media could have done a better job in helping us to understand the background of the candidate. And there's several other things that should have been in place, checks and balances, to make sure that we knew what we were getting. And what we were getting is not only the person, but the person's history and their plans for the future of Memphis. And that's where we failed the citizen. We should have known when this unit, the Scorpion unit, was established. Some of the Memphis police officers that I talked to immediately after the incident, after the murder of young Tyree, didn't have a familiarity with the Scorpion unit. So there were some folks on the department who may have heard the word. They had no idea what they did. They had no idea who was on it. And then you had another circle of employees a little closer in who knew what they did and knew that they were bending the law, bending the rules, bending the Constitution, but they didn't say anything until they broke the law, broke the Constitution, and broke the neck of young Tyree Nichols and murdered him. It's only after that some of these folks had the gumption to come forward. Once paying the price for it now.
I'm just without words because I'm glad Attorney Crump talked about this man being shielded, because I'm wondering why we didn't hear anything about him from the beginning. Preston Hemphill. I mean, and then, then you're seeing the people from the fire department, the EMTs that you're seeing. It just seems like every day it's like you pull the string and more people keep falling out. More and more departments, if you will, compartments, that's Freudian, are complicit. I mean, because they're all in the same gang, if you will, it seems. And they all protect each other.
Yeah, and because of that complicit, the nature of the way things are unfolding, that's one reason that we're moving ahead on our requests to the Department of Justice to come in and conduct a pattern and practice review of the Memphis Police Department, so they can tell us what's wrong, give us some data that we can trust, confirm what are now rumors and allegations, and then show the Memphis Police Department how to be better, how to deliver the mission that they claim to be protect and serve. We've got to have that happen. We have a joint Black Caucus out of Shelby County that includes city councilmen, school board members, county commissioners, and state legislators. And you'll hear within the next day or two, we'll probably wait until after the services, the homegoing services for young Tyree Nichols, and then we'll make that letter and our intentions public.
We have about 30 seconds, and we have Attorney Fancher on.
Okay, stand by, everybody. We are about to come right back up, and then I've got the live read, just so that you know. Well, of course, you did ask about that, board operator. Oh, my word.
I did.
This is
all right, here we go.
This is all too much. Thank you. Hey, Mark.
Good morning.
Oh, boy, this will be great.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. At the bottom of the hour, we will be talking with John Nichols of The Nation magazine. Chicago mayoral race, early voting has started. Everybody get out and vote, 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 vote. The election itself is February 28th, but even this Tyree Nichols case, it has resonated here. You have at least two of the top tier candidates who are running on law and order. How will this reshape the campaign here? I mean, Chicago is famous or infamous, and it has been for decades, everybody, for crime. When I was oh my goodness, I was over in Europe when I was 14, many, many years ago. And they would ask you, where are you from, Chicago? They'd say, bang, 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 Al Capone. Now, this was in the 70s, okay? I went to Cuba that same summer. Where are you from? Chicago. Bang, bang, bang. Al Capone. Let's be clear. Well, so violence did not start in 2018. Thank you very much. But we have an opportunity to end it today, but it's going to be a very painful process. We're talking with Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, who's giving us really tremendous insights into this Tyree Nichols case. There's so much that's coming out every single day. And we're so grateful that he is joining Dwight McKee, noted social scientist, the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Darrell Jones, and brilliant scholar and author and lawyer, Mark Fancher, who has joined us. So stay right here, everybody. I want you to call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and perhaps we can find out why this white police officer, who's very young, 26 years of age, Preston Hemphill, why he's been shielded. He was the man who dragged Tyree out of the car. He was the man who said, I hope they stomp its ASS. He was the man who tased him. But he's still drawing a paycheck. Yeah. He's been relieved of his duty, but he's not been fired and he's not been charged with a crime. Maybe that'll be coming. I don't know. We're going to be talking about that, everybody. What did you say, Robert? Bingo, bam, boom, drop mic drop, all of that. We've got to find out what's going on here, because what's happening in Memphis really shines a light on what's happening throughout the country. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 12 degrees, mostly sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 10 degrees, mostly sunny. It is cold. Everyone is waiting for February 12th. This NFL history-making Super Bowl. For the first time in the history of that 57-year game, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City. Well, they are two African Americans. They will be starting at quarterback. It's never happened before. But every time these black quarterbacks have been given the opportunity to shine, they have broken records. I can't forget Doug Williams, one of the winningest college quarterbacks in history, played under the great Eddie Robinson. He came in and threw those four touchdowns in the first quarter, shut John Elway down and shut everybody else up and made us all believers. Oh yeah, when we're given the opportunity, we do great things on these stages. In the NBA, the Kings won 18, the Timberwolves won 11. The Clippers will be playing the Bulls tonight. In the NHL, both of the Chicago and Minneapolis teams got a bit of a break, everybody. There are ice storms all over the country. 1,100 flights were canceled yesterday, and a similar number will be canceled today. Everybody, please call and check and see if your flight has been affected. President Joe Biden intends to end COVID-19 national and public health emergencies on May 11th. No more free shots, COVID shots, vaccines, none of that. You'll be paying for treatments now and all of that. The enhanced social safety benefits, that will be ended too. Do you want that to end? You need to call your representative and let them know that no, you don't want them to end. You need that. Everybody, we have been, as we're talking about, oh goodness, we're talking about so much. We're talking about financial freedom. We're talking about all kinds of freedom. And really, the freedom to breathe, the freedom to live. We're looking at the Perks at Work campaign by Team Hochberg. I want you all to get involved in that. Call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. Because they can help you to save thousands as you buy or sell a home. If you're selling your home, if you're purchasing a new home and you'd like to save thousands of dollars, yes, thousands, you need to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. They're your trusted local lender. Team Hochberg is offering everyone an opportunity to be a part of their Perks at Work benefit program through the end of April. It can save you thousands of dollars as you buy your new home, as you sell the home that you're in. This is how it works. Team Hochberg, they're affiliated realtors. Well, they will sell your home. They'll reduce their fee up to 1%. That's a lot of money, everybody. When a Team Hochberg, they will credit their loan origination fee, and their affiliated attorney will reduce their fee. That's a lot of money. Their realtors reducing their commission by 1%. Their attorneys reducing their commissions, their loan origination fees, all of that can save you thousands of dollars. There is a couple that saved $9,000 through this program. It could be you. When they sold their home, And when they purchased a new home, because of all of these fees that were saved, this Perks at Work program, they were able to save $9,000. It could be you to learn how you can save thousands. Please call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to visit them at 56david.com, 56david.com. They're your equal housing lender. Let's get right back to it. Every day, it seems that we're finding out something new about this program. And we just thought it was rumor. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, that, there was a white police officer involved. But if you had seen the whole tape, which corporate media have not shown again, you saw a white hand, you saw a white person. You said, okay, so this is a police thing. I mean, this is a cultural thing. I mean, what is the takeaway for all of this? And now we find out about this program that occurred under the watch of your current police superintendent. And now people are calling for her to lose her job, for her to resign. I realize the funeral is tomorrow, and people, out of respect for the Nichols family, you need that process to go forward. But what is the path forward? What is next? Because even in the midst of their grief, we still have to, will there be trials? Will these guys plead out? Will this Preston Hemphill, will he be charged with anything? Is that what it's looking like? Do we know anything more at this time?
Well, Santita, early on I cautioned that we needed to be conscious of the fact that due process is at risk here, and that having 5 black police officers who were charged so quickly, and they said swiftly, I say hastily, that we put ourselves at risk. Black folks who for centuries have not been afforded due process. Even before the United States became a nation, we weren't afforded due process. We weren't afforded due process afterwards. We were actually written out of the Constitution and only used as numbers to establish the voting strength of the different states, especially the slaveholding states, so that the slaveholding states they wouldn't get overwhelmed by black folks going to the polls and controlling the slaveholding states. But that's the whole new discussion. But the fact is, a due process, we had a distorted view of it being carried out, and yet MPD and the Strickland administration was being praised for getting it going so swiftly. If you recall, I cautioned, we still need more information. We've got to protect that basic constitutional right for the current folk who live, work, play in Tennessee and Memphis and Shelby County, but also for those all over the nation. If we don't have due process, then we're back into those slavery and apartheid days. So moving so quickly on the black officers, knowing full well that there was at least one white officer who was directly involved, whether you're putting hands on young Tyree or whether you're putting the taser on him when he was on the ground, or whether you're shooting the taser at him when he's fleeing, running for his life, literally running for his life. If he participated in that, he should have been in that first round of firing. He should have been in that first round of charges for violating young Tyree's right. So we've got to be cautious even now that we don't move too fast and deny the officers due process, because we're the ones who will lose in the long run if we allow it to be violated, and we cheer and we celebrate, but in essence will hurt us in the long run. Let's do this. Let's do it the right way. But for that to happen, I'll say again, we need truth and transparency out of the Memphis Police Department and the mayor's administration. So we can trust you. And even city council can't get straight answers, and the Memphis Police Department gets a budget from the city council. They have ordinances that they have to follow that are set by the city council. Something's wrong. And quote Lewis Carroll again with Alice in Wonderland. There seems to be sinister and curious there. And when there's that confusion, it rains, and when you just can't figure it out, it's because someone's not being truthful.
And you know what? And don't stop there. Lewis Carroll would tell us to go through the looking glass. We're on the other side of this thing. This, whew, it's just too much. You're making me pick up that classic one more time. We've got attorney Mark Fancher, who is a brilliant, brilliant lawyer out of Detroit. And I want to know what your assessment is. You know, and we've, State Representative Hardaway, we have taken the care to bring people from all over the country to talk to you and to talk to Attorney Bailey, because this is something that has impacted us all, because we all deal with this in every city in which we live. You know, every Black mother and father are afraid for their child to go out. You want your husband, your partner, your man to get home. Now you're worried about your daughter, your wife, your partner. Everybody is just, because Sandra Bland was a woman, Breonna Taylor was at home. I mean, goodness gracious. You just don't feel safe anywhere. Mark Fancher.
Well, what happened with this white officer sounds very familiar to me. I represent a Black police officer in Detroit. Several years ago, when he was off duty and in plain clothes, he accidentally stumbled onto an unmarked crime scene. And white officers descended on him, they berated him, they cursed at him, they yelled at him. He identified himself as a police officer. It made no difference. They continued in on him. They put handcuffs on him and tightened the cuffs so tight that they bit into his wrist. He asked them to release the cuffs or loosen them. They wouldn't. They threatened to charge him with everything in the book. And then when the supervising officer arrived on the scene, he pulled my client aside and said, listen, you're not going to say anything about this. This goes nowhere from tonight. You're not going to complain about this. And my client said, yes, I am. I definitely will. And so he warned him and told him, you know, if you do, there will be consequences for you. So he went ahead and filed an internal complaint against these white officers, complaining about what they did to him and said that it was racial. And immediately, Internal Affairs began to investigate him, and they brought charges against him. They began to conduct surveillance of him, and it created all kinds of problems for him personally and professionally. But that was just one example of the kinds of ways in which they protect white officers within that department. White officers are given special treatment. And we don't appreciate, I think, many times, those of us who are not in law enforcement, the extent to which that police departments are their own separate little discrete insular societies that have their own rules and their own dynamics. And it doesn't matter that they're at odds with what else is going on outside of their own little society. So, you know, they enjoy the protection. White officers enjoy the protection of unions to a degree that Black officers frequently don't. So none of this comes as a surprise. It sounds very familiar. And we don't know yet all of the dynamics that contributed to what happened in Memphis in terms of this officer being shielded. But the fact that he was is very consistent with what happens in many departments.
Attorney Daryl Jones, do you believe that this officer was shielded, or is this just pure coincidence?
Oh, I absolutely believe the officer was shielded. Let me tell you, as Mark was talking, I was making a note what he was saying about the police department being its own society, and it very much is. is on society. They circle their wagons when they need to. In this particular situation, I think that what you see happening is that, you see the police department willing to sever some toes to save the foot. So, they realize that if they get rid of these, they take this quick action on these 5 officers, it throws you off the track. And they'll just concentrate on the 5 and not the rest of the society that's there and what else was going on. So, I completely agree with what Marcus laid out with regards to, their society. And if it comes to the point, and I'll say it and I'll say it again, it comes to the point where we have to start looking at the individual and personal liability of the officers for the actions that they've taken. It does not make sense that this white officer, Hempel, who, initiated part of this stuff, pulled him out of the car, tased him, was not exposed, was not completely laid out. I also put this on at the feet of the city council there, because the city council has got to hold their own hearing. They've got to bring the police department in. As the representative said, they control the police budget. The police need to come and answer to them, answer the questions, make them turn on the lights, pull back the sheets, and see what was in this bag. I think that, for the members of that city council, they've got to stand up for the community, because, the city council, Santita, as you know, that's about as close to the rubber in the road as you're going to get. That's where the people have the most influence, is right there. They've got to stand up and represent the people of that city and find out and get to the bottom of what happened, who knew about it, and do what they can to certainly expose anything that's there. And I agree with the representative. As we continue to hear more information, we're going to see more layers of this onion that are becoming exposed, and it's going to be rotten at its core. That's what I anticipate, Santita.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask my board operator to call John Nichols to see if we can reschedule, because this is an onion. We're trying to peel it. And I think we need to do that. I certainly would love the state representative to stay with us a little longer, but I understand a lot of people pulling at him. So whenever you need to jump, you can. But I have this question for you before we go to the break. How did the story about Mr. Hemphill, Officer Hemphill, come out? I mean, because we've had this deluge of, these 5 Black police officers and how dreadful their actions were. And they were. And I'm not going to let them operate under the cover of darkness, everybody. Right is right if it's in the trash can, and wrong is wrong if your mama does it. And that's just where we have to be. And we have to be that way about race. Skin ain't kin, as you have said. Say, Representative Hardaway, how did this come out? I mean, because it has been hidden. We've had this wonderful interview with Don Lemon and your police superintendent. That was not even mentioned. I'm like, are you saying Don didn't ask, she didn't offer it? I'm like, well, what's going on?
Well, and that's one reason you can like the folks that you're having to work with, and in some cases interview, but you can't be in love with them. I'm like all of my coworkers. My coworkers being my fellow legislators on the city, the county, and the state level. However, I ain't in love with them. I'm in love with my constituents, and that's where my loyalties lie. I have no problem in asking those hard questions. I have no problem in bringing our citizens in and insisting on transparency. One of the problems that we have may be that we don't have a strong citizens law enforcement review board. We have a clear. The city has made an attempt. Our city council has made an attempt at it, but the state came in and said, "Well, we're not going to give you subpoena power." So, which in essence says that ain't nobody really got to talk to you. There needs to be a reworking of the relationship between Third and the city council. So the council can use subpoena power to support Third in a real way, give them more adequate funding so they can have stronger investigatory powers. These are the citizen oversight that's where the true transparency occurs, and we gotta have more of these clerk units everywhere that we have law enforcement agencies, so the civilians can stay involved. Your question about why did it come out like it did, that's really the thing that doesn't make a bit of sense. Mm-hmm. If we didn't get the information before the release of the tape, we certainly knew that the tapes were going to show everything in black and white, pun intended, what occurred. So I can't answer why something that was going to be clear and focused to us wasn't revealed to us before they released the tape. There's an old blues line that says, "Who you gonna believe, me or your lying eyes?" So that's the choice we've got right now. Who you gonna believe?
Who you gonna believe? Who are you gonna believe? You sounded like my great grandmama Tippy today. You said, "Don't make a bit of sense." Thank you for that reminder. And this woman couldn't read or write, but she made all the sense in the world. And she also said that God will not be mocked. We need to stop playing, y'all. Stay right here. Call us at 773-763-9278. And join the Morning Stars here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're having a lot of conversation about all of this. A lot of people want to know what the deal is on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Back with more here on WCPT in just a few minutes. And AM 950 Radio. Oh, it's just so much. I'm Santita Jackson. Stay right here. It's too much. Anybody have anything else? Anything they want to say? Yes.
Miss Jackson, I just want to confirm we're not having John Nichols on.
Right. If you could call him and ask him if I could reschedule, if I can have him tomorrow or Thursday.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. You all want to continue talking? You know, we're on Facebook Live. This is a lot.
Well, let me ask this if I could, Ms. Jackson. Mm-hmm. And that's the fact that we've got to have black folks and those who are of lower economic means. These are the folks who suffer most from the apartheid-like government that we find ourselves existing under. We've got to have folks that do more than just look and wonder and become spectators. They've got to get involved. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Of the people, for the people, by the people means you got to be on the field playing. You figure out what position you want to play. Get in it and make something happen. You've got to research so you can stop voting blindly just because you recognize a name. You've got to be able to vote based upon the merit of the candidate. You've got to be able to vote the issue based upon the merit of the issue. Do your research. Be a smart voter.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You can come right back on. That was just automatic.
All right. One thing that that I tell all of my young folks when I speak to them, don't be a one resource researcher. Don't be a one issue voter. You've got to spread it out. You've got to know as much as you can possibly know about your candidates and about the issues before you give up your most valuable currency in a democracy. That's your vote. So we need for those who are, we talk about whether you're big bad or little bad, you need to keep that and take your big bad self to the polls next election and select someone who has your best interests at heart. Sometimes they look like you and have the black experience. Sometimes they look like you and they don't. You got to know the difference and vote accordingly. That's a smart vote. But take your big bad or little bad self to the polls same type of tragedy.
Dwight, Attorney Jones, Attorney Fancher.
Well, you know, the danger that you run in that is because, as you said, all skin folk and kinfolk is a mentality that gives the police this parental mentality that they can just wholesale raid the black community as with no accountability. And you watch Starsky and Hutch, and you watch these TV shows, and they develop, these young guys watch these shows and believe that that becomes real life for them. That they just have carte blanche, particularly when they come out of the military. And so rather than do investigations, they really conduct raids. I listened to some of our mayoral candidates here who set the precedent here for that. Is when you say something like hunt them down like rabbits, then you really kind of turn the regular police and they overflood, and they see it as rabbit season, and everybody becomes Bugs Bunny to them, and so they develop a mentality that they can just hunt down suspects.
Stand by.
Stand by. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, January 31st, Tuesday, right here on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. My morning stars, hey, Ashley King down there in Memphis, and Daryl Prunty, and Kenneth, and let me see, and L. Stanley Davis here. Saw you last week at the mayoral forum. It was great to see you. Laura Bell, Mike Duries, and Renee Criswell, and so many of you, Bingo Robert, and so many of you today, Mildred and Carol. Sending you all much love today as we talk about, as we continue to peel away this onion that is the Tyre Nichols case. It just seems like so much of the corruption that we have discussed and that we have experienced in Black and marginalized communities. Now we're beginning to see it. And I think that, to me, that is the upside of this. As we talk with Attorney Daryl Jones, Attorney Mark Fancher, Dwight McKee, and our special guest today is Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, trying to figure out what's going on. He says, you know what, we are... We're just in a very, very interesting position in a very interesting time. I mean, because we've heard about these Black police officers, but now we find out that at the first stop, because there were two, there was a white police officer who stopped Tyre, tased him, and pulled him out the car. No one has talked about that. Nobody. So now Attorney Ben Crump said he's been protected. Why? And is that how you mete out justice? You protect some people, sacrifice the others? Or are we going to look at the whole problem? I mean, I just want to know, and I want to know that from everybody here. Let me start with you, Dwight. What about this problem? You know, protecting one police officer, and then throwing everybody else. Well, and they should have been fired, and they should be charged, and they should be indicted. There's no question. But there are other people who need to be fired, charged, and indicted, and that's not happened.
Well, it almost looks like a reflex where the Black officers are sacrificial, and the white officer, almost again by reflex, can be protected, and that will really throw down, I think, to the perceptions that the unions will come in and protect the white officer, and the fraternities will come in, police fraternities, to protect the white officer, and they're willing to forego the trying to protect and get around to isolate the Black officers.
it's almost like a situation where, okay, we need to put some people on the altar. So get the 5 black rams and let the virgin white ram go. Because not only did he not get indicted, he hadn't been fired. And it's remarkable since he was the one that instigated the whole thing. He pulled him out of the car and said, I hope they stomp his behind. And so it's a mentality that he seems like he should have been the first indicted, and he's the one that's unindicted. So I almost think it just feeds into the whole racism, the reflexes of racism, that the black guys are always the ones who can be sacrificed, and the white guys are always the ones to be protected.
I mean, Mark Fancher?
Yeah, no, Dwight's exactly right. And, I think that many of us just don't have a full appreciation for the way that white officers think. It's not that they are necessarily, wild pack dogs that don't process information or think it. They just have a really distorted and corrupt perspective on the way that life works. If you really talk to most white police officers, here's the way they think. They think that what they're doing is a job that they should be always congratulated for. And they should be congratulated for doing it because they are the ones charged with essentially maintaining control over zoo animals. That they're sent into these low-income communities of color, and that everybody there is violent and crazy, and that they are the ones that put their lives on the line in order to protect the world from these kinds of people. And that in order to do that, they have to treat them a certain way. And the world just does not understand what they're up against in terms of the danger that they're confronting every day. And so they're very resentful, and because nobody is celebrating them all the time. And they get very confused and angry when there are these kinds of incidents and the world seems to come down on them like a ton of bricks. They just don't understand it. But beyond that, they also believe that in this age of so-called political correctness, that they have to look out for each other. That within the structure of a municipal police department, where the leadership, in the mayor's office, maybe even the police chief, the city council, may be dominated by black people or other people of color, that these white officers need to protect themselves within that institutional structure, and they have to have each other's back. And so they go to great lengths to create within that little insular society that they have in the department a whole, sociological construct that ensures that they are always dominant, that they're always protected, and that they're always shielded. And they will stop at nothing in order to make sure that white officers are protected. The reference was made to the unions. That is something that is a real threat for any police chief. They always realize that if there's a need for reform or to discipline somebody, that they're going to have to deal with the unions. And they're very reluctant to do anything that's going to antagonize them because the unions come at them, with a vengeance. They also, on a more basic level, on a street level, and black officers feel this. They're concerned that when they're partnered with white officers, that if somehow they are not acting in a way that ensures the safety and the job security of these white officers, that these white officers are not going to have their back when they're on the street, and that they're going to be endangered because they can't count on them to come to their aid. So white officers have this thing locked down institutionally and on a practical level on the ground. The social forces that are present within a police department are such that this happens. So I'm speaking very broadly, and certainly that's not the case in every police department, but it's present in enough of them that it is a real factor, and which is why I take the position that the institution of policing as it currently exists is beyond reform, that you cannot reform this. You cannot change this by giving officers more training, helping them to become more sensitive or tolerant or any of those kinds of things. You can't change this by putting in place policies that presumably limit their conduct because they're going to do whatever they want to do, and we already know what they're going to do. The entire structure, the entire system of policing as we know it has to be broken down, and public safety has to be completely reimagined. You can't have an army of soldiers patrolling city streets. What you have to have is you have to have diverse people with diverse credentials, people from diverse professions who are tailor-made for the city's actual needs in terms of public safety. You have to have mental health professionals. You have to have drug treatment specialists. You have to have psychologists. You have to have mediators. You have to have those kinds of people who are on call to respond to the real emergencies that communities face. And these soldier types, the ones who are aggressive and angry and who have a culture that is very racialized, they have to be kept to a minimum. In the same way that police departments currently keep SWAT teams and units like that to a minimum, you don't see the SWAT team come out every day patrolling streets. They're just kept in reserve for those very dire situations where you have to have people with those skill sets. And I think that the current police officer who patrols the street, I think they need to be treated the same way, and their numbers need to be radically reduced to break down this culture, which is so destructive.
Well, I'd like the state representative to speak. Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
If I may add what what Mark said real quickly.
Quickly.
Is that Mark is not just about public safety, it's about police safety first. And they're taught that their first job is to neutralize the threat. But they see everything that we do and everything that we are as the threat. And so they come in with the mindset to neutralize us by any means necessary, because it's really not about our safety, it's about their safety. And so we become the victim of all of that paranoia and all of the trained to be paranoid. And we become the victim of all that paranoia.
And before I get back to go to Attorney Jones, I'd like you, State Representative Hardaway. TJ yesterday, one of my morning stars, and I thank you for tuning in, TJ, even when you disagree with what you're hearing. But I wanted to get this clear because yesterday you didn't think that Mr. Hemphill, Officer Hemphill, was complicit, was not just complicit, he was involved. And you found out this morning that he is. And this morning you say, not defending Preston Hemphill, he is scum like the others. I'm not going to call him scum. He's a human being and he's a child of God. God loves him as much as he loves me, you, and everybody else. But he certainly is someone who has gone astray. You said, but his hands were on his taser. So he was not the cop who pulled Tyree out of the car. Honey, we're looking at the video. I don't know what you're looking at. You keep looking for reasons to let this guy off the hook. Now, State Representative Hardaway, what did this guy do? What did Hemphill do? And why was he relieved of duty and he's still drawing a paycheck? They said that according to press reports and the video that I saw, and Dr. Damon Arnold was the one who brought this to our attention, the former head of the Illinois Department of Public Health. He asked me on Friday, he said, what is the deal? This guy, there's a white guy who started all of this. He tased him. He pulled him out of the car. Is that what happened, State Representative Hardaway?
Well, as you know, I try to stick with stuff. I'm absolutely.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely, but it's confident as my lying eyes would tell me. And that is that he was present at the initial encounter. I can't confirm, looking at the frames, whether it was him that was actually pulling Mr. Nichols out of the car. I can tell you that he was there, that he did apply the taser to Mr. Nichols at that scene while he was on the ground. I can tell you that he shot the darts from the taser when Mr. Nichols was fleeing for his life. I can tell you that he did give that explanation that he wanted them to stop him when they catch him
Mm-hmm.
I can confirm all that. I saw that with my line eye. So we're still going to have to wait and see what the other videos, there may or may not be some dash cam that can help us with the whether there was anything that was going on to support the allegation of reckless driving. That dash cam may have caught some of the conversation that was going on in the car when they decided that they were going to pursue Mr. Nichols and yank him from his car and Mr. literally beating the life out of him. And that just brings me back to what I've got to do later today, and let's finish up these bills. We're going to do bills to establish psychological evaluations as a mandatory step in hiring, where we set a mental and emotional baseline for those who want to be in law enforcement. Figure out if the job is for you, if you're fit for the job. We want to have periodic evaluation. So annually, you would have to submit to an evaluation. So we'll know what your status is, whether you're still fit for the job. Random evaluation. Same as we do drug tests. If something happened to you recently that we don't know, it doesn't show, but it affects your ability to maintain a stable emotional state, mental state, and interact with the public. We need more focus on non-escalation techniques and methods and operations. If we hadn't had the stop, then there wouldn't have been a situation to de-escalate. So do we need to stop citizens for all of the traffic violations that we make excuses, pretextual stop, where we're making excuses just so we can try to get at something else that we don't know? I'd say to you that we need to reevaluate that. We already have a law in place that says that you don't need to transport, you don't need to arrest everyone that you stop if there's another option. You can develop the mentality that my first step is going to be the issue of summons. You show up, and if necessary, you show up for fingerprinting or whatever, or you show up in court. We've got to establish more ways to avoid the encounters where escalation occurs, and we have to apply de-escalation. If we get smart and we focus on non-escalation in our operations and in the psychology of the encounters, then we'll avoid a whole lot of these problems. The audio, video, photo technology, the law's got to catch up with that. Some of that is covered under the obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence. Some of it is technology is one off and left it. The Brady Rule, where you have to talk about the untrustworthiness of a police officer when you're in the middle of a trial. That information should be provided to defendants. Right now, there's nothing specifically requiring that. Some information is, but that untrustworthiness is something we hope to add to the required revelations of the exculpatory evidence. Now, the do not hire registry. When you got law enforcement officers who get fired one day, go right to the next city or the next county or the next state and be signed up to start work as a law enforcement officer in that jurisdiction, something's wrong. So we need a do not hire registry. It needs to be national, but we're going to at least try to establish one statewide and create a model that we can get the Congress to establish a national do not hire registry. We want to collect the data that we need. Race, zip code, sex, age, indigency, or economic status. We need all that to figure out who are the officers traffic encounters, who are they using deadly force on, who are they using tasers, pepper spray on, how many folks require EMT attention, how many folks actually require hospitalization. It's more than just who dies. It's much more than that. So we've got to get those numbers so we can analyze them and figure out better policy. We've got to address something I call adult chronic trauma. We know with adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, that we've been able to pinpoint the triggers for some of our children because we're able to document that they've had trauma in their lives and that's affected the way that they matured or failed to mature. We've got to give that same body of study. We've got to give it to adult chronic trauma and start to figure out how adults who live with burdens, with individuals in their family field, with domestic violence, police abuse. We've got to see how it truly affects adults and how they live their lives. Whistleblower protection and relocation. We've got to be able to explain the revisit what can we do to ensure that whistleblowers, and I'm focusing on those within the police department who right now may be afraid of retribution from their fellow officers. What can we do to give them more protection? What can we do to, when necessary, give them relocation for their families and those close to it? Sometimes we have to get them put away right then and there. And we've got to establish a program where the DA can make that happen. And we don't have to wait a long time. And whoever the potential whistleblower or the potential witnesses at a crime scene, including police officers who may be potential witnesses against other police officers, but we can put them away safely, place them where they can await more interviews and subsequently be witnesses in prosecution. And there are more that I'm going to end there and say that we've got the option now, working with our joint city, county, state, Black Caucus members, and requesting pattern and practices review by the Department of Justice of the Memphis Police Department, and we'll have more on that. We'll probably have a letter available, Ms. Santita, for the day after tomorrow, after we want to be respectful of the family and let tomorrow be about respecting the memory and letting the family grieve the loss of their son. Thinking of simple silver bullet problem, it's going to take a comprehensive approach to at least make a dent in the abuse that we've been suffering from the law enforcement agencies ever since we hit this shore. There's been something in the form of legal authority that has looked at us as less than human and thus allowed them to abuse and treat us like animals. Until we stand up and demand better, we're not going to get anything better.
You know what? I want you, Attorney Jones, and Attorney Fancher, and Dwight McKee to stay with me for a few minutes after we get off of WCPT and AM 950 radio. Morning Stars, stay with us. So I'm going to get closing thoughts from everyone on the other side. On the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. We're also sharing this with Reverend Jesse Jackson's page. I want you to follow me on Twitter at Santita J. Many mayoral candidates are talking about this. They've all had a reaction to it. At least two of the candidates are running on a law and order platform. I want to know what your thoughts are about that. Do you think that the killing of Tyree Nichols will impact any of that? Will we get a George Floyd justice and policing law passed? And And that's going to happen. But will it be watered down? I mean, and what's the FOP? What's the Fraternal Order of Police going to do about these 5 Black police officers? I don't see them running to defend them right now. Are they going to defend Mr. Hemphill? I mean, we have a lot of questions, and it's going to be fascinating to watch this play out. I'm going to reach out to John Nichols because I know you all wanted to hear him today, but I know you wanted to hear this as well, because we're trying to tease out as much information about this as we can, because I've got whiplash. Text Tennessee State Representative, I've got whiplash. My head is just going back and forth because every day something curiouser and curiouser is coming out about not just this case, but about how the legal system works, how the police work in this country today. And it's time for us to really deal with it. I'm Santita Jackson. I love you, everybody. Love you, board operator. Thank you for a great show. God bless you. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Going to get some closing thoughts from this wonderful panel. Attorney Jones, you've been an elected official. How do you see this? How do you think this should be handled going forward, this case? I mean, because it's just every day we're finding out something new. More people are getting relieved of duty, whatever that means. Some people being fired, some people are not. Some people just being allowed to wait until this all blows over, ostensibly. Attorney Jones.
You know, Santita, that's an incredible question to ask, and it's a very difficult one to really answer. But I tell you, I think that as a community, we've got to stand up and just push to get these answers, because it's going to blow over. And one of the things that a lot of folks that are in control in our society always depend on, particularly white folks, is that if you just give them a little bit of time, they'll forget about it. It'll go away, and there'll be a new problem that will exist, and they'll forget about the entire situation of what's happening with Tyree Nichols. And we've got to be certain that we remain focused on the Tyree Nichols situation and the Justice and Policing Act. We cannot take our eyes off the ball. One of the things that Representative Hardaway said that I would certainly encourage across the country is that for the states to not wait on the federal government to enact federal legislation, although it's the ideal piece for dealing with policing and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, but for individual states to take segments of what's been suggested to go into the act and implement it in those states. I think that's going to be one of the key pieces that's here. But I tell you, and I'll say it and I'll say it again, so long as Tennessee and Memphis goes along with this drip of information that's coming out, they're going to drag the story on. It's going to become worse. It's going to become, certainly, much more unable of being digested by the public in Memphis, unable of being acceptable in any manner by our society in general. They need to be transparent and just lay it all out. I mean, we're now learning that there were over 70 commands that were given to Tyree within those 13 minutes, and oftentimes those commands were contradictory to one another on what he needed to do to save his life and to come out of that situation. It ended up being a contempt of cops situation because there are all these contradictory things that the police officers are saying that you're not doing what I'm telling you to do, so this is what I'm doing. All of this is going to continue to drift and come out until they simply come clean and lay it all out. That's as I see it, Santita.
Attorney Fancher. Well, I think that we just need to come to terms with the fact that there's going to be another one of these next week. And this happens all the time. And it's no longer news to us. This is nothing unique about this man being brutalized.
No.
And I worry about myself sometimes because I'm becoming desensitized to it. I see so many of these kinds of incidents that don't make the national headlines. I just see the videos day in, day out. And recognize that we have an ongoing project that we need to carry out, and that is to, number one, dissolve police departments as we know them, and to rebuild something that is more reflective of the actual needs of communities. And we need to work on that every day, every week, every month, every year, until we bring that into existence. But what we have right now just does not work. It's clear, it's dangerous to communities of color, and it continues to create these incidents, and it just needs to be eliminated. And I very often when I say this kind of thing, people say, well, are you saying defund the police? Actually, I don't say that. I say just use the money that's already been appropriated for police in a different way. Don't continue hiring police officers. When they leave, don't fill their slots with more police officers who were trained at the academy. Fill it with a psychologist. When an officer retires, don't fill that slot with another police officer. Hire somebody who's a drug treatment specialist. And to diversify the skill set of public service agencies so that this culture that exists right now is completely broken up just by virtue of the fact that people are occupying these positions who don't buy into it, and in fact may not have ever even been exposed to it.
You're absolutely right. The money is there. It's just we're putting people in the wrong positions. Dwight McKee and then State Representative Hardaway. Dwight?
Well, I disagree with Mark at one point. Mark saying that it's not working, and I say it's working based on how it's designed to work. Most of these small towns balance the budget by setting up these speed traps. So when people drive through the town, they are set up to get pulled over and pay a ticket. And so you can't defund the town because that's how they fund themselves. Off the backs of poor people, off the backs of people who are innocent people who just happen to be driving through a town, and the speed limit goes from 65 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, and a sign that's behind a tree, that's behind a stop sign, that's behind another tree. And so you have these encounters with the police because it's almost like it's not just a speed trap. It's almost like a Venus spy trap, where they juggle some food in front of you, they pull you over, and then they consume you. And if you can't, they take you. You can't pay. They take you to jail because that's how they pay the budget. That's how they sustain the town. And so until you break this system that is set up to as a parasitic system that preys upon the poor and the disenfranchised and the innocent, you will always have these encounters and always have this situation. It's really designed to be that way.
State Representative Hardaway, the path forward. Whew. I mean, legislatively, you've laid out some priorities for us, but you said something that also struck me, that we can't stand by idly and just let things happen to us and around us. We have to get involved. But get involved in what? Get involved where? What do we do?
Well, and that's an interesting observation. Get involved in what do we do? Let me say this first, because I think about this quite often in the predicament, and that's how do we get here as a nation, and how much appreciation is there for the role that Black folk played in the creation of the nation. It wasn't just the slavery and the economic death that occurred where we actually built the nation, and we did it through labor, a capitalist capitalism is supposed to be the free exchange of people and wages, supply and demand. But slavery is free labor. That just doesn't happen. So we've been living under this apartheid-like structure since before we became a nation. The first black man that's credited with spilling blood for the creation of America that inspired the American Revolution, Christmas Sabbath in Boston. Mm-hmm. We don't give him credit for his contribution. Mm-hmm. And I don't guess I ought to be surprised. A whole lot of folks still don't believe in Black Jesus. Mm-hmm. So the basic faith is built on false foundations, and a lot of the work that we do, we have to do time and time again before it catches. So now we've got to take these folks who have been abused and the system, the institutional racism that's in place, a society that has kind of lulled us to sleep with quiet bigotry that they've been able to perpetuate for years, where it's not in your face. We've got a couple of generations that did not believe in the Emmett Till until they saw a face that looked like the open casket picture of Emmett Till. They didn't believe or really understand what the right king was all about. It was history for them until we actually saw the videos of what happened to young Tyree Nichols. Elton Hayes is a case that occurred in Memphis, Shelby County, where a group of deputies and other law enforcement officers had a car chase and beat this young man to death, literally. And they beat him so bad that the young man with him forgot everything, didn't know nothing about nothing until years later, as he got older, and he felt comfortable and safe enough to talk about it. So this institutional racism, the quiet bigotry that we live under in our culture, it's been with us a while, and the only way to destroy that systemic problem is to get into it and start to change the policy, change the personnel who are supposed to carry out the policy. And how do you do that? You go to the policymakers. Who is that? That's your legislators. Whether it's on the city council level, the school board level, the county commission level, the state level, or in Congress, it's your legislators who are charged with advocating for you. It's your legislators who should be legislating on your behalf, legislating in your best interest. And the only way to ensure that, Santita, is to look at your relationship with your legislator. We're like anybody else, any of your personal relationships. We're going to go as far as you let us go on our own. If you don't set boundaries and expectations and then have some way of holding us accountable, the same way you do a personal relationship. If you don't do that with your legislators and elected officials in general, if you don't do that, we're going to do what we want to do. And that's why you have, sometimes you have us go off on, you have elected officials go off on tangents that aren't in the best interest of the public. So you've got to ensure that your relationship with your elected official is tight. When you go in to that ballot box, and you drop your ballot in the ballot box, you got to show up that next day to help count the votes, and the day after that to help to legislate. You've got two seasons. One is a season of hope. That's when legislators and city council people, and judges even, come to you and tell you how grand and wonderful your life is going to be if you just elect them to office. Go to the polls, vote for them, put them in office, and you're going to be in wonderland. But then there's a season of help. That's what happens after that season of hope. Season of hope is the election cycle. The season of help is the governing cycle. That's when folks have to be held accountable to do what they promised you during the season of hope. They've got to know that you're going to show up at their office, that you're going to be in their email, you're going to be on that phone, filling up their voicemail, that you're going to write letters, that you are going to give them proper oversight so they will give you the proper oversight of the agencies, the departments, the commissions, the board that are supposed to be delivering good government to you. So back to the beginning, we got to do our part. Get off the bench, participate, be big mad, a little mad, lift that big mad, a little mad, laugh until you go to the polls and put somebody in there that's going to look after your best interest. We're not going to know the whole story and have full details on what happened to young Tyree Nichols for a long time. But we need to know as much as possible now so we can start the reckoning. I hear a lot of conversation about healing. First, we got to have that reckoning. Folks got to be held accountable. Folks need to be properly disciplined, and it needs to be put out so we can understand and appreciate the what and the why. Until we have that reckoning, which means they got to be charged or dismissed. If we don't have, if it doesn't have the criminal charges, they got to get their due. So we can start the healing. We're not going to be able to start real healing until we deal with the injustice, and somebody has been held accountable. So, with that said, I'll relinquish the floor and prepare the legislature.
You know, there's so much going on, everybody. I just want you to open your eyes, get registered to vote. And if you have lost the right to vote, check and make sure that you have. Check and make sure that your right to vote has been restored. But get involved. Even if you cannot vote, you can drive someone to vote. You can make sandwiches. There's so much you are part of this society. You are. I don't care how hard the founding fathers tried to exclude you. You're part of this. It would be one thing if they didn't need us to build the place and if they didn't need indigenous people's lands to make this country. Well, now, you know what? We're all here. And this all belongs to us. And it runs, this injustice continues with our consent. Yes, Tennessee State Representative Hardaway, I say it's by our consent, because on the day that we decide that we want another country, we in Jim Crow. We in slavery. We get a Voting Rights Act. We get fair housing. We let other people into the country. We let everybody in. That's on the day that we decide that we want a new America. Now you make the decision. You choose or you lose, or we all lose. Choose the right way and we can all win. There should be no more Tyrees. Sadly, there will be until we choose to get involved, to go to these police board meetings, to demand accountability from the FOP, because they're running everything and allowing their people to run roughshod over all of us. And that's a shame. I know people who've gone onto the police force who had hopes of really trying to make some changes. And they've either been run off the force or they just cannot wait to retire because they say it's just too corrupt for you. It's more corrupt than you can imagine. And you see it. And it spread into the fire department and with the EMTs and everything. They wouldn't even care for this boy. He's young enough to be my child. They wouldn't even care for him. Are you serious? Yeah. It happens all the time. And it shouldn't. So we're going to keep you lifted up in prayer. State Representative Hardaway, you're doing such great work. I know people are bugging you from all over the country. Not bugging you, but asking you, where do we go from here? But you've got such a clear, brilliant voice. I just want you to know we thank God for you. We do. We thank God for you, and we need you. We need you. We need you. And I know that you'll be heading over to the funeral tomorrow, but our prayers will be with you. And can't wait to talk with you about this again, because there's a lot of work that we've got to do right now. We've got to do it together. Is there anything that's been left unsaid, State Representative Hardaway?
Well, Santita, I think the obvious in front of us is something that we need to observe, and that's how important it is to have our own network, our own means of mass communication. That's how information is distributed. That's how inspiration is generated in our community. If we don't tell our story, somebody else is going to tell it from their standpoint. And you already know that the lion would have a different story to tell if the hunter doesn't kill him. You let the lion tell the story, and it's a different story. But I salute you as a communicator. That's what you do, and those communications and that natural communication, that skill that you have, the talent to educate and then motivate, the talent to inform and inspire. We're back to what you do with those blessings. The Lord said that blessing ain't a blessing until you share it. So I salute you and I honor you for doing so. And my people, get ready. Get ready. That train's rolling, whether you own it or not, and it's going to leave you, or you're going to ride on it, or it's going to run over you if you try to stop it, get in front of you. Our people will be free. It's taken forever for us to get to this point, but with that motivation that individuals like yourself are able to give us, with the information that individuals like yourself are able to give us, you're going to see that we're going to be free. We're going to be free, but you got to keep moving. That's what the message that we got from John Lewis. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving forward. And if you don't keep moving forward, somebody's going to catch up with you and take your freedom. So let's keep moving, people. I once again extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of young Tyree Nichols, the Wells family, and the Nichols family. And we pray for you. We send prayers of comfort and care, and to the city and the county and the state and the nation and the world. We pray for you.
Amen. Amen. And God bless you. Thank you for being what we want. Thank you for being what we want and need in a public servant. Thank you for that. Thank you for serving Memphis, Tennessee, and our country, because that is what you're doing. We thank you for using your clear, distinctive, brilliant, and brave voice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You give us all courage. You encourage us. You help us to bring out the courage that God has already put in us. And I thank you for that. We all, on behalf of everyone, I thank you. State Representative, Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. Can't wait to have you back.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Blessings for you and to all of you.
Oh, God bless you. And God bless all of you. Hey, Meddy, I'm so glad to see you back, girly girl. Jewel, love you. Flora, love you. Daryl, love you. Duh, I love all of you. Robert, everybody. Everybody, I just love you. And just keep up with the news today. We'll be talking about this and so much more tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless you, everybody. Love you, love you, love you. And board operator, excuse me, thank you for a marvelous show. God bless you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.